Welcome to Season 2 of the Maine podcast, where small businesses join together to think outside the box and learn how to roll with the punches and stay in the fight. We invite you to tune in whether you're a skeptic, on the fence, or have many years creating Maine-made products. Let's keep that entrepreneurial fire burning strong as we put Maine on the map with the Maine podcast. All right, so today on the show, we have a guest here. He's the owner and operator of Blackdog Ironworks, LLC. He first started his blacksmithing journey while studying sculpture at the University of Maine in 2009. The sculpture studio had a small forging setup consisting of a couple anvils, a forge, and a vise. He used the basics of the craft to incorporate forged elements into his sculptural work. And after a few months of steady work, everything blew up. He had more work than he could make. It eventually got to the point where he quit his day job to pursue Blackdog Ironworks full-time in May of 2015. And his growing family eventually moved to Enfield, Maine, where the new shop now resides. He's continued to grow, adding over 20 new products in 2020 and hiring his first official employee in February of 2021. Please welcome my friend and former co-host of the Maine podcast show, Matt Foster. Welcome.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You know, when I wanted to do season 2, and obviously, everything going on, our businesses have actually thrived the past year with a lot of people shopping online.
Yeah, miraculously.
I'm super blessed. I'm not taking it for granted. I know in conversation with you, you're just trying to figure out how do you keep up with this. And so, we're really all excited, but at the same time, it puts us in a position where we need to expand. And we'll talk about how Matt's had to expand his workshop and how he's had to hire help. And I've been pushing Matt to hire some help for quite a while. And he's like, it's a big first step, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than I think people realize.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of it comes down to, you got the paperwork, you got someone else that you're responsible for now. I've talked to my other friend, Andy Cody, and maybe we can get him on the show one of these times, but he also hired his first employee. And it's, you're responsible for paying somebody else. And if they have a family and kids, that's how they feed them. That's their income. And so you want to make sure you have enough work. You got to start planning your day out. But yeah, we'll jump into that a little bit more. So if you wouldn't mind, give us our audience a quick little refresher, where you are right now and, what specifically do you do with your blacksmithing?
So predominantly I make hand forged ironwork. It consists of things like gifts, home decor, housewares, things like that. So it's going to be a lot of bottle openers is predominantly what we make. Coat racks and wall hooks and fireplace tools and shelf brackets, all sorts of stuff. Pretty much whatever our customers want, we can make it. We do some custom stuff. We that's kind of taken a back seat at the moment, but we're definitely going to be taking on some more of those projects, I think. Yeah.
And so do you think, so last year, obviously, without, talking about COVID and all of that too much, I want to try to find a good place where we can talk about how it impacted our business without it feeling all negative and kind of like, just not a facade, but just a negative connotation where our lives didn't change a whole lot. Like we still have to wake up. We're still working our jobs. We're still providing for our family. And so for me, things didn't change a whole lot. And I know for you, it didn't, the day-to-day process didn't change. We still have to do this. It's like, we can't stop our running these small businesses. And so I know for you, where things have increased, why do you think that is?
Well, it's funny. I actually just had a memory pop up on Facebook, and it was a post that I made on Blackdog Ironworks on Facebook, and it was saying, it was me essentially saying like, hey, you know, our sales are really down. We realize that you know, people aren't focusing on you know, gifts or their home decor at the moment. They're thinking about how they're going to, you know, how they're going to feed their families, pay their mortgage, you know, what they're going to do with their kids because the schools are closing, and you know, just ensuring, just, you know, letting our customers know that we're still here and we're still going to keep going, even, you know, as long as our suppliers and shippers, you know, still operate, we're going to keep operating. And you know, like I said, miraculous is I think the best word to describe it, is that right after I made that post, you know, sales started to slowly climb up. And eventually by the end of March, you know, it was, you know, nonstop. It was nonstop orders. And I think a lot of that had to do with people being stuck at home. They were now working from home. They were thinking about their home decor. And then also people couldn't go to the store and buy gifts like they normally could. So they were looking online for gifts, and, you know, people were doing most of their shopping for everything online. And so I think that that definitely had something to do with the increase in sales.
So you pointed out two things that just stood out to me. So one, you have the people that are just looking to improve their home. Maybe they have some free time, maybe they have some free money or some extra money to spend. And so they're thinking, well, maybe I will put up a shelf or some more coat racks or some more home decor. Am I right? That's one,
Yeah.
let's say, market, I guess. But then you have the people that just are sending gifts.
Yep.
Right. So whether it's a birthday, a wedding, a congratulations gift, certain holidays,
Yep.
groomsmen gifts,
Mother's Day,
Mother's
Father's
Day.
Day. Yeah. All that. Yeah.
And so you have that lane that you have people in that area too.
Yep.
And so you saw a huge increase. What do you do? Like, you know, do you start freaking out? Do you start panicking? Do you start getting on the phone and trying to figure out how to get more of your raw materials? Did you have enough raw materials to handle this sudden increase? Because, you know, with holiday time, we can prepare. We know based on
Yeah.
past years that we can say, oh, Mother's Day, Father's Day is a good season for me. So I can prepare. I know what's going to sell. How did you prepare for this? And could you?
Yeah, I did. And the way I prepared was knowing that what was coming eventually, that businesses were going to start to close down for a while. I ordered a bunch of material. I made sure the propane tanks were full. I made sure that we had the fuel for the forge, and you know, that we had all the things that we needed to keep going, even if some of our suppliers decided that they couldn't. And it ended up working out really well. And I had to cut back a little bit on certain products, you know, certain products that weren't doing too well. I wasn't really focusing on producing. And then the other products that were flying off the shelf, you know, obviously I was putting a lot more time into those and focusing on those. And I think I also ended up not taking on the custom work. I started to just say, no, I can't do any custom work right now, because I had to focus on those regular orders, the normal customer that's ordering
work. Explain to us what a custom job would be that someone would ask you to do.
So it'd be something that I don't offer regularly on my site, or it could be something that I offer regularly on my site, which I would call a standard product.
Okay.
They would want it altered in some way.
Gotcha.
And so the reason I consider it normal or custom is because it ends up taking a lot more time and focus to create the custom stuff than it does to create the standard product. The standard product, it's almost I don't want to formulaic sounds bad, but it is formulaic in
Sure.
that there's a particular method to creating that product, and I can create that product very efficiently compared to the custom work, which might require a lot more time
And
and
that's what I was going to
effort.
ask.
Yeah.
How do you say, okay, well, the bottle openers, it takes this amount of time, this much material, and you can set this price point. But how do you do that with the custom work?
Yeah, it takes a lot of thought as to, exactly what processes are going to be required to produce it, because some of the different techniques are going to take more time than others, and that means more fuel, more labor. And some other things are going to require a lot more time in design, whereas maybe something very simple, like just a small dimensional change of something, like if someone were to order a shelf bracket, but they wanted it, a certain size that we don't normally offer.
Right.
Um, that can be a little bit fast, a little bit quicker of a custom, type of product. Whereas with something that I've never made before, a completely new design, obviously that's going to take a lot more time.
Yeah. Now bring us through that creative design process, because I know you, and you're obviously very articulate and artistic. When you went to school and for that, and you developed these beautiful pieces of sculpture. Does the whole making the bottle openers and the hooks, does that get kind of boring and monotonous? Do you like that creative design process where you get to maybe take something that you already have and put a nice special flair on it, or maybe it's a completely new piece? I got to think that you enjoy doing that side of it, right?
Yeah, I do. Um, the some of the custom stuff I definitely enjoy, especially when the customer gives you more freedom.
Mm.
That's that can be a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Obviously, when I'm coming up with the design, it's a lot more enjoyable for me when I have that freedom to do what I want and maybe make suggestions to the
Yeah.
customer as far as the design goes. Whereas, sometimes I get people who want something very particular and they're very specific about it. That can be definitely less enjoyable.
Mm.
The producing the standard products, it's repetitive. I mean, it because I'm literally repeating the design,
Yeah.
but you kind of just get in a zone, and it's almost a little meditative when you're
Sure.
working on those repeating forms.
Now, have you found any way to make those repetitive things more efficient, whether it's a new forge or better cutting machine? I don't know everything that
Yeah,
you
yeah,
use, but over
for
time, have
sure.
you been able to find a better way to crank out more volume, but
Oh
still keep
yeah.
that same quality?
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of upgrades that I've made
Sure.
over the the few years I've been doing this, and um, you just kind of find areas of the particular process that take a lot of time
Yeah.
or take a lot more effort or focus or whatever it may be, and you can start to think about ways that you can start to reduce the amount of work that's necessary to create those things. And actually, maybe this is a good time to get into the new employee I
Yeah.
have, because that has been amazing,
Yeah, I was
amazing
gonna say
having.
6 years without an
Yeah,
employee. So you're a one
yeah,
man show. I think you said your wife helps you out a little bit. You've had some friends come up there and help you from
yep,
time to time on some big
yep,
orders. But I mean,
yep.
before we get to the employee, let's just talk about how many different things that you have to do. Just give us a quick rundown of your daily schedule and what Matt Foster does as the owner of Black Dog Ironworks.
Yep. So it starts with answering emails and messages, because I get quite a few of those, particularly from if I'm coming up with a design for somebody. There's a lot of back and forth that
Yeah.
happens with that. I have a lot of customers who have questions about things and they need to be answered, and so that's pretty much the first thing I do is I just answer those messages, um, and then I'll kind of look at the orders that I've got and what needs to happen that day, what needs to happen the next day, and just kind of start planning out what has to happen the rest of the day. So it's going to, especially now with my new employee, it's kind of like, okay, well, what tasks can I have them do while I'm doing these other tasks that is going to make things as efficient as possible. So I do that, and once I have sort of an idea of what I'm doing, it's out to the shop, which I'm in right now.
Yeah. Oh, it's a new
And
shop too.
yes, it is. Yeah, this is the new part of the shop. But yeah, it's coming out here, and my employee usually shows up around 9 o'clock.
Okay.
He's here about 3 days a week. And yeah, I give him some tasks to do, and usually that consists of either prepping material for what needs to be made that day, or it's going to be finishing up certain things that happened the
Right.
day before. A lot of drilling holes and waxing. We do a lot of beeswax finishes on things. So that's pretty much what I do as soon as I come out here, is give him those tasks, and then I start on forging. I mean, I just especially with my new employee, it's forging every day for hours at a time.
Wow.
Just because it's a very it's a skilled thing, and it's not just something that anybody can do right away. And I have things that I want done in a particular way, so that the product turns out the same every time. Eventually, my employee I have right now may eventually be able to do some of that stuff, but
I want to ask you about that, because I know
okay.
when I first hired somebody on, this is our baby. We've created this business of ours, and we are very particular on how we want it to be portrayed to the customer. We have a standard that we want to uphold. And then you bring somebody else on that may not have the same, I don't want to say, well, just particular about how you want it done. And so how do you get that person to have the same level of care and attention to detail as you do? I mean, yeah, you can train them, you can show them. Do you have to hover over him and be like, well, that's, you did that wrong? Or do you give them a little bit at a time and you say, okay, you did a good job on that. Now here's this. And you continue to give them more and more projects?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just going to depend on the employee, and so it's all going to start
Right.
with hiring them. And this particular employee had some experience with some of the tools of the trade, and so and he actually showed up on my doorstep without without warning, right? And
Okay.
and introduced himself, and there was some connections between friends and stuff, so it wasn't like a complete stranger. But I actually did an interview with him that day, and I knew as soon as he pulled up, I was like, oh, that's definitely this guy. Cool. I don't know if I want to say his name on here, but but he's a great employee. I can give him tasks and he works on them. And one of the first days when I was training him, I had to run to the post office and I gave him some stuff to do. And when I came back, he had already finished them and he was figuring out other things that he could do, already.
Employee.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just standing around twiddling his thumbs.
Exactly.
Maybe snooping around.
Yeah, I do want things done in a particular way, and I try to train him to do those things in a particular way. Sometimes, it might not be exactly the way I want. And so there's some tuning that needs to happen. And I need to just remind him, like, or maybe it's not even something I've even said to him or even thought that, would be done differently. And so I there's, some communication back and forth about, oh, I want this thing done in a particular way, versus the way that you're doing it. And it none of the things that have come up have been such a horrible thing, right. And there is some subconsciously I do have to kind of let go, because
it's hard. Because in your mind you can see it a certain way, how you want it to come out, or how to fix it.
Yeah.
But then you mentioned, it's the communication piece. You need to be able to verbally communicate to him exactly what you're expecting. And don't be too hard if if your employee does make mistakes, but I think it leaves an opportunity for room for improvement, for correction. It's going to happen. It's not the end of the world. I'm guessing most of the stuff you can fix. You're going to have maybe a few losses, a little bit of a loss here and there on some stuff if it gets messed up. But that's awesome. That's very exciting to hear. I'm excited to see how the rest of the year goes. Now, is this employee available to work more hours if you need him to, if you get busier?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think that might end up being the case once, the holiday season comes around and
Yeah, make sure you
think,
have that conversation with them
yeah.
ahead of time.
But I'm hoping that, and I think this is probably going to be the case, is that by the time that time comes around, um, it's not going to really be much of an issue because we're going to be so far ahead of where
Okay.
I would normally be with, production and things like that.
Yeah, so I don't know who said it, but failing to plan, you're planning to fail. And
Yeah.
so you guys are planning, you're preparing now and building up an inventory. And so you
Yep.
put in the hard work now, you don't wait till you have the work. So that's good to know. And so I'd love to hear about the shop. I don't really know a lot about it. I'm still waiting for my invite out there to
Yeah.
get the tour, but it is
Yeah.
much bigger than the other shop. So explain to us, everything. Well, if you want to talk about a few of the tools and stuff that you had in the past shop, and what the process was, why did you build it, why didn't you rent out something, lease something, or all the other options that are out there.
So the shop originally was 12 feet by 16 foot, so pretty much just a large shed.
Mhm.
And I had specifically built it for its purpose. So it was purpose built and it worked well for what I needed to.
Yeah.
But as the business was growing, I knew I was going to end up eventually having to hire somebody, and that there were some tools that I wanted to get that were larger and were going to take up a lot more space and have different requirements than what the shop could have offered.
Mhm.
So I decided that to put an addition on to the shop, I had looked around a little bit for a space to rent or a space to buy, but there was nothing really available in my area at the time. Um, I probably could have looked further away, but I did want to try to stay closer to my home.
Yeah.
And so I decided, well, I'll put an addition onto it. And so we put our common friend, Andy, we put on it's a 20-foot by 16-foot addition. So it's more than doubling the size. And it also has a storage off the back that's covered. So it's really freed up a lot of space in here. And so I've moved some of the tools out from the original shop into the new space, which has freed up some more room in there. And we've already started to fill up the new
Uh-oh.
space quite a bit. We've got a 8-foot by 4-foot steel welding table that's right in the middle of the room. We've got a 4-foot by 3-foot spray booth. So if we're doing any sort of painting or spraying on our products, we can do it inside the booth and keep fumes down.
Nice.
And then we also have a CNC plasma cutter that we got, which is it's about 5 feet wide by 3 feet deep. So that takes up quite a bit of space. But with the new shop, I think that we've planned out where specific things are to make things as efficient as possible. And one of the things that I really like is that the new space is kind of the clean space. And I say that with quotes because it's not super clean, but because it is a metal shop, but it's a lot cleaner than where the forge is and where a lot of grinding and cutting and things like that is going on. So it kind of gives a little bit of separation between processes that are a lot more messy and, loud and fire and flames and sparks and dust and all that stuff versus some more of the cleaner processes where, drilling holes and, spraying stuff isn't really such a big mess or anything like that. Yeah.
Man, I'm really excited. I want to come take a look at it. I have a feeling that you're probably going to fill it up a lot faster than you thought. I know
Yeah.
you said you planned
Yeah.
it out and you have certain machines, but
Yeah.
isn't it freeing to know that you can actually have somebody else in there and they can be in another room doing the
Yep.
tasks that you have them to do,
Yep.
and that you can acquire these bigger machines that can expand the company. And
Yep.
it's almost like the company was like, it was telling you, like, you need more space, need more of these machines to add different features and new products. So is that something that you're obviously planning? I'm guessing we've talked about like a powder coated finish, some
Yep.
of your product. Is
Yep.
that?
So, So that's going to be a little ways in the future, I think.
Okay.
We're going to try to focus right now on just getting that inventory built up and then maybe creating some new products.
What kind
But
of things is a plasma
eventually,
cutter? What would that be used for?
well, you can cut shapes out of sheet metal
Yeah.
uh, very quickly and cleanly with that. So you can design on a computer. I could cut out the Made in Maine podcast logo out of a piece of metal if I really wanted to. But really what it is it's going to allow us to do certain designs that in the past would have been not very
Right.
cost effective. Whereas now with this machine, we can create parts for certain products that will allow it to be more efficient and cost effective,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that you had some obstacles and you found ways to overcome them, whether it was space and just the volume of work last year. I got a kind of like an oddball question. Do you have any of your work that's visible in the state of Maine that people would be able to see?
Of the
Like any
stuff
type of
from Blackdog Ironworks.
sculptures or anything that you've done? Yeah.
Yeah, so if you go to the Bucksport waterfront, there's a sculpture right on the waterfront. It's a giant monumental granite sculpture that's right. You can see the bridge behind it, the Penobscot Observatory Bridge, Penobscot Narrows.
Yep.
That's what it's
Yep.
called? Yeah, yeah. The bridge right there, and so that one's publicly visible. A lot of the other sculptures that I've made are in private collections, so they're not something you can just go
What's
see.
something like really unique that you've built that you've made? It's maybe you probably only build it one time. Catch you off
I
guard.
don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Anything? I know you
I
do like
made.
fireplace stuff,
Yeah, I've made some like props for things like
like a movie set type thing.
yeah, like some I've made some movie props. I've made some props for escape rooms actually.
Oh, that's pretty
Someone
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
someone had an escape room and they needed like a branding iron that had a particular design on it, and so I came up with that for them.
What about something
Um,
for like somebody famous? Have you
yeah.
had any famous people come to you?
Yeah, in a roundabout way, yeah.
Okay.
So I've done some work for a company called the Gratitude Collaborative. I've made some bottle openers for them. This particularly what they were buying, and they they're over in California and they have some connections with directors in
Oh,
Hollywood, and
Hollywood.
so yeah, so they've I've made some stuff for the cast of Star Wars. I've
Whoa,
made some
that's so
stuff
cool.
for the actor Chris Pine,
Yep.
Chris Pratt.
What?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
your stuff is in the hands of some of these people, some of
Yeah,
these.
possibly. Yeah, I can't,
That is
I can't
cool.
say for sure, but yeah, so sort of in a roundabout way. Yeah.
That is awesome. And so you got your stuff. So where do you think like the farthest place is that you've sent some of your work
Boy,
outside of the United States?
oh yeah, I mean, Japan, I've sent some stuff to Korea, New Zealand, all over.
Yeah, and you and I have talked on a previous episode. We've talked about some of the costs that go along with the making the product and shipping. We've talked about obstacles. What about is there any specific resources that kind of helped you along on this journey? I know we talked about in the beginning we talked about how you went to school for it, but I mean like I'm guessing did you read books? Do you watch YouTube videos? How do you get that? Drive to have new ideas, new products, and to learn the trade a little bit more.
Yeah, so new ideas and inspiration for stuff, a lot of that comes from other blacksmiths. So there's actually a really big community on Instagram of professional blacksmiths, and you can see some really incredible work just by going on there and looking up hashtag blacksmithing.
Mhm.
And so I follow a lot of blacksmiths whose work I really enjoy, and a lot of them definitely provide some inspiration for things. And oftentimes my ideas a lot of ideas come from the customer themselves, particularly for the standard products. So when someone comes to me and says, hey, can you make me something like this? And I'll make it for them, but then I'll also make a few extras for me, and then I'll put them up on the websites and see if anybody wants to buy them.
So you've
And if
had
they
some
and
that
if they
just
do,
took off, like
yeah.
someone gave you an idea, you made it for them, and you're like, you know what, this might actually do pretty good, and you've kept it around.
Oh yeah, definitely. So my best-selling product, we offer a bottle opener that's personalized, so
Yeah.
we can stamp names or dates or whatever.
Mhm.
A lot of people buy them as groomsmen gifts or Father's Day gifts or what have you, and that came from my customers requesting it. I was making bottle openers, but they were just blank bottle openers, and I kept on getting customers asking me, hey, can you put a name on it? Can you put a phrase on it, whatever it may be? And so eventually I was like, yeah, I could try figuring that out. And I did. And eventually, that just blew up. And yeah, it's definitely like
Great.
it's probably half of the revenue for the business comes from those.
Wow, that's awesome. And,
Yeah.
and so when you put out these really good products, and it's got Black Dog Ironworks over, it's got customization. Do you see that you have other people? I know you said the blacksmith community is very tight and respectable community, but do you have those people that try to rip off like your idea without your permission and start making or using your pictures or using trying to use your ideas?
Yeah, I've had that
How
happen
do you, how do you,
before.
is there anything you can do about that?
It depends on where it is and who's doing it. And
Yeah.
I've had people steal my photos and try to use them and sell a product of
Not like
similar
yours,
type.
right?
But
Right.
no, and I can't imagine how they would be doing that. But yeah, and so some of them I've been able to just send a message and say, hey, you don't have permission to use this. I'd like you to take it down. And
Right.
sometimes they do. And then in other cases, you have unresponsive people.
I
And
mean, you're trademarked, right? And registered. So you
yeah.
technically, if you wanted to, you might be able to go after some of those people.
Yeah, but then even on some of the platforms, so Etsy or Amazon,
Mhm.
eBay, things like that, it's really going to end up being up to the platform about whether or not they want to remove that item.
Right.
So I've just recently had a case where someone was using my images and selling my product at a higher price. So I can only
Oh,
imagine, yeah, I can only imagine what they were doing was
that hurts the brand. That
taking
hurts your.
yeah, I can only imagine what they're doing was selling the product at this higher price and then going to my Etsy site and buying the product
Really?
for the person. That's the only way I
Huh.
can think that they would be making money off of it, unless they were just straight up scamming people.
Yeah.
Um, and So I contacted Etsy, contacted the seller, and the seller didn't respond. Etsy said, "Oh, we don't see anything wrong here." And I'm like, "Are you serious? There's like
My picture. You take your
my
own pictures, right?
yeah, I take my own pictures. In the actual pictures is my logo.
Yeah.
Like physically in the picture is my logo with the
Yeah.
name of the business, which is trademarked. And I tried pointing that out to Etsy a couple times. I actually contacted their legal department directly, and they still said we can't really do anything. You
That's
know,
lame.
yeah, you could
I'm sorry
contact
to
a
hear that.
lawyer. Yeah,
I
that's
think
all right.
that's going to happen in any industry, and
Yeah.
there's only so much you can do. You got to just, keep pressing forward. Don't let it bum you out too much. And yeah, so like you have that, you got to deal with that. What about, is there any misconceptions about your business or maybe the industry that you're in?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I think that some of the customers that find our products um, don't quite understand exactly the process by which our products are made. I mean, we're making them with a hammer and an anvil. We're hitting things with a hammer in order to make
Yeah.
them, and there's only so much level of accuracy that you can have with something like that. And so we try to inform our customers that, this is a handmade product. Some of the dimensions might vary a little bit, it might vary slightly from what you see in the photos. But there's
everything's
still
different. Every single one's different.
Yeah. They're all a little bit different. We try our best to try and make them as similar as possible. But still, there's some people that expect them to be exactly the same, almost like a mass manufactured product,
cookie cutter product.
Exactly. And so you end up getting some of those customers that aren't quite happy because they don't really understand, why the product is a little bit different. But then on the other hand, you have the people that are buying the product because of that. They're buying the product because there's that variation and there's that character to the product that you're not going to get from those cookie cutter mass manufactured things.
Forged in the backwoods of Enfield, Maine.
Yep.
So what's something that you wish you had known when you started this Blackdog Ironworks? Have you made some big mistakes or things that you would change?
I would have hired somebody a lot sooner.
I told you.
I know. I would have hired somebody a lot sooner. Yeah. A lot sooner. There's a lot that goes into hiring somebody, and that, I kept putting it off and saying, maybe I can just wait a little bit longer. And eventually I just had to take that leap of faith that I can, I just got to do it. And so I did, and it's been working out amazing.
Is that not what small business is though? Like, I can't tell you, I'm going to be facing one myself here again, and I'm kind of dreading it. I'm praying about it, but I'm also trying to weigh it out and think it through and not do like a irrational decision, an impulse decision. So yeah, that's part of the excitement and the journey. Yep. So I'm glad to be able to share that with you. So as we wrap things up here, let's talk about what you got going on right now. What's the future look like for Blackdog Ironworks in 2021? Any new products, any new areas that you want to try to get into or grow?
So right now our goal is to just keep building up our inventory, because that was the biggest problem that I was facing with the business, was that I couldn't make the product fast enough and I couldn't satisfy the demand from the customer. So once we're able to do that, and we are catching up, we are building up that product or building up that inventory. Once we're able to do that, we want to start putting some new products out there, some different products, some more of the customizable products like the personalized bottle opener. We want to be able to create some more of those gift items that are really going to give the customer exactly what they want, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're going to be doing any shows or anything like that. I haven't planned any this year. It was actually kind of weird. I signed up for the most shows I had ever expected to do. And then of course, COVID happened, and now, they all canceled. And so I'm kind of holding off on applying to anything to do those in-person shows, and just trying to focus on the production and making the best product possible.
Yeah. And I'm excited for you, man. Where can people find your product? Where can they find Blackdog Ironworks?
Yeah, so you can find Blackdog Ironworks at our own website, blackdogironworks.com. You can also find us on Etsy. We also sell on Amazon, and we do a little bit of selling on eBay, not nearly as much as the other platforms. The best place to buy the product is going to be from blackdogironworks.com. A lot of those other platforms take quite a big percentage. Blackdogironworks.com, it's just a transaction fee from a credit card processor. That's it. And so more of our customers' hard-earned money is actually going to supporting our business, our families, our community. So I try to encourage people to go there before the other sites. And then you can also find us on Instagram. And we also have some YouTube videos. So just a few YouTube videos that show off how some of our products are made.
Yeah, great videos. I would definitely recommend going and checking those out. You will be amazed. Matt is a good friend. He's a hard worker, and it's just been great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time, for coming out and doing this. Appreciate you a lot.
Thanks, Dan.
Awesome. All right. I'll catch you later. We'll catch you on the next one, guys. Thanks. Thanks for listening to Season 2 of the Made and Made podcast. We hope that you thoroughly enjoyed this episode and would like to ask you to consider sharing it with friends, family, and your business peers. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram Also, you can find the Made in Maine podcast on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and all other digital streaming services. If you would like to financially support the show and be a part of putting Maine on the map, you can subscribe to us on Patreon or email madeinmainepodcast@gmail.com. So shop local, shop small, and save Maine businesses once and for all.